Welcome to Rotowire Fantasy Football Live, Week 16, flying through the season. Happy holidays to everybody. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. Exciting time of the year for everyone on many different levels. As always, it's Saturday. That means John Ryan time, the Predictive Playbook Sports Channel. John is on this 80% heater. John will tell us if that's been continuing or not, but I know that was like a 4-week run. He was at a 21-5 clip. He hit 4 straight 10-unit plays, but even long term, I mean, John's been a professional gambler almost 3 decades here. He's been like 68% over the last 4 years in his 10-unit bets. We know that you only needed like 52.5% to be making money at this. John is so far over that threshold. NCAA and NFL combined the last few years, he's at 65%. Like I tell you, when you get gambling advice, there's a lot of people throwing stuff out there. You need to go to people who are reliable. John, do you have any holiday specials? I know you have a December special going on. Bowl games are coming up. You got anything special going on? Good morning and welcome in. And why don't you tell anybody if you got anything special going on before we get into the games and the DFS picks?
Well, the win streak continues. And, to be totally transparent, these win streaks come to an end, just like losing streaks come to an end. And you can't expect 81% against the number, especially in the NFL, which is the toughest of the sports to actually win that high for that long to last. So I'm taking it one day at a time. And, it doesn't matter. Like in a bowling match, you throw in a 300 game, you can't get nervous on that 9th shot after throwing the first 8. And I use that approach with my sports betting too. I can't be thinking about a win streak and, oh boy, I hope I don't mess that up. And conversely, I can't be 0-5 and be worried like, oh my God, if I give the clients another pick, I'm going to just, be miserable. You can't think like that. But anyway, for anybody that wants to check out the research, I'm going to give it away free this weekend, Jim. I'm feeling in the Christmas spirit in a big way, especially this win streak is helping. So that would cover you in the NFL through Monday. And, I got some big plays coming. We have 2 10-unit plays again this week, 6-0 run, as you mentioned. And I couldn't be happier.
John, how do people get the free picks from you?
Send an email to johnryansports@gmail.com or hit me up on a direct message on Twitter at johnryansports and the number 1.
All right, that's fantastic. Merry Christmas from John to everybody who wants to partake in that. Start Sit stream will be Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. If people pop Start Sit questions in this at the end of the show, I'll let John go his merry way. Christmas, nice. And then I'll answer Start Sit questions if you put them in the chat after that point. If Sirius XM show, I will be on with Mario Puig today, 1 to 3 Eastern, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Channel. John, let's get to it. Bills and Chargers. We got one of these Saturday. It's a Saturday night game. Yeah, tonight they're playing it, right? Correct? Saturday night game. Bills in charge, 12-point line. Bills coming off a dismantling of the Dallas Cowboys. The Chargers laid one of the all-time eggs on a Thursday night. No Justin Herbert, and now there is no head coach. Brandon Staley, GM Tom Telesco gone. How do they shake out in the post world of the new coach for the Chargers and the Bills who are trying to race to the playoffs?
Well, I took a little bit of money to the window earlier this week and got the Bills to win the AFC Championship at plus 650. It's still there. If they win this game convincingly, it's not going to be there much longer. But I think they are the most dangerous team in all of football right now. I don't see any possibility that we're going to have a letdown of any size against the Chargers, who really have nothing to play for except keeping themselves healthy and not suffering any significant injuries. And, that is important. But I think the Bills will get out to a very quick lead, 10-0, 14-0, 13-0, and just take any ideas the Chargers would have of pulling off the upset completely out of the stadium. And I think they roll. More importantly, what's very intriguing to me is that the next 3 weeks, you're going to see some amazing games, amazing upsets. We have Dallas and Miami, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. And these games are obviously going to determine who the playoff teams are. Now, think about this, Jim. Miami has a brutal schedule coming up.
Yep.
If they should lose today to Dallas and then lose the next week, that sets up a showdown for the AFC East division crown between the Bills and the Dolphins on the last game of the season.
They only need one loss in those games, though, because the tiebreaker would go to the Bills. The Bills only have to tie them. So the Dolphins lose 1. Yep. If the Dolphins lose 1 and the Bills win 2, that game is for the title.
Yep. Yep, you're absolutely right. And that everything is in the Bills' favor, I think, to pull this off because their schedule is a lot easier to navigate than what the Dolphins are going to have to face. And, that would be just one hell of a game, period. That would be a game that you'd have to watch for sure, start to finish. I have that line, by the way, if that happens at Pick'em, and the Bills will be on the road in Miami. So let's not get ahead of ourselves yet. But in this matchup with the Chargers, there is a tremendous betting system I'm going to share with you guys. And it goes like this. We're going to bet on double-digit favorites, regardless of location. They're facing a host that has won 25 to 40% of their games on the season, and the host has lost at least 2 consecutive games in a row. So a poor team, 2 or more game winning streak, things are not going their way, going against a double-digit favorite. And what does a double-digit favorite tell you? That team is superior. No question there. There's no doubt in my mind that Buffalo is a vastly better team. 45-2 straight up, 96%. The Bills are in that situation. 36-8, 82%, Jim. Last 10 seasons against the number. If the game is a conference matchup, 27-5 with 1 push against the spread, 84% the last 10 seasons, 31-2 straight up, by the way. So if the Chargers would get out to a lead, use the live in-game bet to get Buffalo at single digits, and you have a tremendous opportunity to win some money, I think. Lastly, if the game takes place from week 9 on out, which is the second half of the season, 35-2 straight up, 95% straight up winners, 28-7-2 pushes, 80%. And there's more, Jim. There's always more. 24-12 under, 67%. I hate teasers. I hate parlays. I don't recommend them, but this situation has caught me for a pizza money size bet to tease Buffalo and the under in this matchup. The under has a system where you're going to bet the under, the home team coming off a double-digit loss to a divisional foe, which I don't know if you call that 63 to whatever it was, loss, but it was a loss. The road team has a winning record. 57-29 is the under for 66% the last 10 seasons. And if that loss was by 24 or more points, 15-4, 79% to the under. I think Buffalo, the under, the defense holds the Chargers to less than their team total. So that's another pizza money bet I like, betting under Chargers team total. And that's about it.
Oh, it's a wonderful breakdown as always, John Ryan. He's giving you the Bills -12. Remember the in-game betting tips that John always gives you to teach you to be a smarter gambler. All right, I'm going to give you some DFS plays. Look, there's 3 games on Christmas Day. There are 2 games on Saturday. Slimmer slate. We're going to go lean and mean on the DFS picks here. Sunday main slate. Justin Fields, 7,100 against Arizona. Remember back earlier in the season before he had his thumb injury, he had a couple of inferior opponents, I believe Denver at the time and Washington. Fields had over 30 fantasy points in each of those games. Arizona, a little more of the same. Defense, though, they don't have a pass rush. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. Justin Fields could go off easily at 7,100, which is a very fair price, playing at home. Next, Gardner Minshew, 5,900 at Atlanta. Atlanta is not as dominant against the run as they were a month or so ago, but they're still very good against the run. Jonathan Taylor still coming back from a broken thumb. Zach Moss, iffy to play. But regardless, there's a chance this game is somewhat high scoring. Gardner Minshew has – Shane Steichen's an offensive genius. He gets Minshew in great spots consistently, whether that's throwing to Pittman, the tight ends in the red zone, to the running backs. Gardner Minshew is past the point now where we're like, all right, he's going to implode any day. Shane Steichen has him going. Next, Nick Mullins, 5,300 against Detroit. This is your cheap play of the week. Look, Mullins threw some picks. Mullins is not a good quarterback. Detroit is lights out against the run. And what do we have Minnesota coming in with? Ty Chandler, maybe Alexander Madison back from the ankle in a backup role this time. You've got to throw against Detroit. That's how you play them. The pass rush, which looked great earlier in the season, it's really faded off. So not only is Mullins behind a great offensive line for pass blocking, but he's not going to be under much pressure. And he has Justin Jefferson, he has Jordan Addison, he has TJ Hawkinson, weapons that Detroit cannot compete with. So yeah, Nick Mullins is your dart throw cheapie of the week. Not as cheap as you usually can get, but that's it. Running backs, I'm going to give you 3. Kenneth Walker's off the injury report. Yay. We assume he's going to resume his usual role. He's 6,200 at Tennessee. Now, Tennessee, you think, oh, it's a bad run matchup. Usually, yes. Jeffrey Simmons out again. We told you last week they got rid of T.R. Tart, who was their best interior run stuffer. They're without their two of their top run defenders. And here's the thing. Tennessee sometimes they can step up against the run. They cannot sell out to stop it because DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Geno Smith is back. So Tennessee cannot sell out to stop it. Kenneth Walker, the snap share isn't always great, but we saw last week 19 carries and a few targets to just 4 carries for Charbonnet. Even though the snaps were close, the guy is Walker, big play machine. Love him. Chuba Hubbard, 5,700 against Green Bay. Criminally underpriced. Chuba Hubbard is seeing over 20 touches a game over the last 3 weeks. There's no reason that's not going to continue against Green Bay. And here's it is with Hubbard. May not be a good running back, but he gets it done as a runner. If that doesn't work, he gets it done as a receiver. They give him the ball in the red zone. He is getting heavy volume, and we say this. Volume is king in fantasy football. And Green Bay, again, not as bad of a run defense as they were in past years, but they are still not one to fear. Finally, Devin Singletary, 5,500 against Cleveland. This is primarily a volume play. Cleveland has been better against the run. They're a good run defense. They are probably going to stack the box quite a bit. It's not a great matchup for Singletary. This is a cash game play, I believe, for volume. Now, Singletary could break 1 or 2 decent-sized runs. If they get in the red zone, he will get the carries. I think this is a game where he sees more targets than usual because of that pass rush of Cleveland. Again, backup quarterback, C.J. Stroud is out. So I think dumping the ball off to Singletary will pile up the PPR points. So those are your 3 running back plays. John, we're going to get back to some gambling plays here. Everybody cannot wait for the Dolphins-Cowboys game. Now, the Dolphins, what's the story on them since last year? They can't beat anybody. What's the story about Dallas? Well, it was they can't beat anybody. Now it's they can't beat anybody on the road. Dallas is on the road. They can't beat anybody. Miami's at home. They can't beat anybody, meaning like big-time teams. Something's got to give here, John. What do you see?
I see Miami winning this by double digits. I believe in a simple fact. If it ain't broke, you don't fix it. And I'm referring to the Dallas Cowboys playing as bad as they do on the road. There's only 3 teams, Jim, that have a scoring differential between what they do at home and away that has been as wide as the Dallas Cowboys going back to 1986. And I'll get to those teams in a second. But the Cowboys are averaging 40 points per game at home. They're averaging an anemic 21 on the road. There's something wrong. And there's something really greatly wrong when you go into Buffalo and you get dominated like you're a team that won 25% of their games. That's not a confidence builder when you have to then get on a jet and go home and then get on another jet and then go back to Miami to face a very good team that's number 2 in the playoff seedings right now if the season ended last week. We have a lot of games for Miami to play. I think squarely the pressure is more on Miami to win this game based on what we talked about earlier with their schedule coming up and a possible showdown with the Bills for the divisional crown than it is on Dallas, who actually has the division lead now, but would lose that with they are the wild card spot right now. They would lose any hope of getting the divisional crown over the Eagles with a loss. So there is pressure on them too. However, Dallas is number 2 scoring offense in all of the NFL at 30.8. But like I said, Jim, how do they get to 30.8? By scoring 40 at home. They're not at home now.
Nope.
Miami is number 1 in offense, and they're far more consistent. They found ways to lose, yes, but they're an offense that is very explosive. They did put up 70, but even if you take that anomaly out in that game against Denver, they're still the best offense based on my power ratings and all the metrics I look at in the entire NFL. They average 5.1 yards per rush. That's number 1 in the NFL. They average almost 2 touchdowns rushing the ball per game. They rank number 9 in third down conversions, which is a big metric in the model predictive abilities, 42%. Let's see. Dallas defense is mediocre on third down conversions, allowing 38%. That ranks 17th in the NFL. They are a good scoring offense, but if you look at points per play allowed, they're 11th, which is good, but it's not elite. Points per play by the Dolphins offense, 0.504. That means they're putting up half a point on the scoreboard for every play they run. So they know how to finish drives. Dallas is a team that when they're on the road, what happens? They either break down the red zone, kick a field goal, or worse yet, turn the ball over. They don't score a lot of touchdowns in the red zone consistently. Miami ranks number 2 in red zone scoring touchdowns. The Cowboys rank 15th, mediocre. They score a touchdown in the red zone opportunities 55% of the time, which is basically a coin flip. And then that's going up against a defense that can really tighten up inside the 20-yard line with the Dolphins. But anyway, there is a pretty good betting system here that I'm going to reveal right now. We're going to bet on any team coming off of a double-digit win over a divisional rival, which the Dolphins did last week. The game is taking place in weeks 14 through 18. That's all there is to it. 44-15 straight up, 75%. 33-25-1 push, that's 57%. But of course, there's always more. If that foe is scoring just 21 or fewer points per game in their road games, which I have, drilled that point home time and time again, talking about the Cowboys, the record for the home team, 45-14 straight up, 76% winners. So that encourages us right there to bet the money line at -2 points or less. So you would get maybe -140 at the most. I wouldn't pay more than that. I would go with the number then. And also bet on any team coming off a double-digit win over a divisional rival. That team is scoring an average of 28 or more points per game. We're talking about the Dolphins. And with the game taking place in weeks 14 through 18, 17-4 straight up, 81% the last 5 seasons. I just think the Dolphins will do the same thing to the Cowboys that the Buffalo Bills did last week.
Oh, man. Again, John bringing the heat. Loves him some Miami Dolphins over the Dallas Cowboys. Now, before we get into our next DFS picks and John's final pick, remember, if you want a free trial at Rotowire, 2 days, no credit card needed. Go to rotowire.com/Jim. Get you a couple of days of free access behind the paywall. Hopefully you like what you see. Join the team. It'd be wonderful to have you on. Also, remember the Start Sit Stream Sunday, tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, where you're watching it right now will be there. Again, happy holidays, everybody. There'll be no show on Monday, Christmas Day, and also no show on Monday, New Year's Day. So we have that. See, Alex is in the house. Alex, thanks for saying good morning. Welcome. All right, next DFS, wide receivers. Look, if you're going to take that idea on Nick Mullins, you got to run it back with Justin Jefferson, 8,100 against Detroit. He looked back last week, playing extremely well. Now he gets that Detroit secondary. They just do not have ability to cover. I don't know that there's any particular scheme they could cook up to slow Justin Jefferson, but Nick Mullins has shown the wisdom to get the ball to his superstar receiver. I do expect to see that happening in what should and could be a high-scoring game. If you're going to go with Justin Fields, DJ Moore, I still think only 6,900 against Arizona. Look, the Bears have not optimized DJ Moore in every game, but there's a reason for that. When they played Minnesota, they knew the blitzes were coming. They knew they had to get it out quick. They knew the downfield passing game wasn't going to work. So they used him well. And this is a game, like I said earlier, Arizona, they have nobody to deal with DJ Moore. The Bears can use him short, intermediate, deep, however they want. And we've seen this. Justin Fields will feature the passing attack through DJ Moore, and their connection is outstanding. DJ Moore has a chance to be a slate breaker for you this week. DK Metcalf, 6,700 at Tennessee. Geno Smith is back. That's a big deal. I mentioned earlier, Jeffrey Simmons is out for Tennessee. He is one of the linchpins in their pass rush. Now, we saw last week, Tennessee did come up with a good pass rush. ascending the house. I really don't think against Seattle they can do that. Seattle is a balanced team. If you sell out in any one area, you are going to pay for that. And I think Mike Vrabel is understanding the fact that you can't. DK Metcalf is going to get his downfield shots in this game against quarterbacks that are unable to hang with him. Drake London next, 5,100 at home against Indianapolis. I know Taylor Heineke's in. That doesn't worry me. Look, Heineke's not a good quarterback, but neither is Desmond Ridder. But the point is, at home all year long, except for week 1, Drake London has been money at home. Gets targets, big yardage, chance to score. On the road, he has been horrible. At home against Indy. Now, Indy gets a pass rush, but remember, the Atlanta offensive line is good enough to give Heineke some protection. London will be the critical piece. Now, I know Indy lately have been easier to run on. 2 weeks ago, they got Grover Stewart, their defensive tackle, back from suspension. They didn't look good. Last week, he got his legs back. They looked very good. When Pittsburgh tried to run, they struggled. I think Indy gets their run defense close to normal here, and I think Drake London looks better as a fantasy option. 5,100, again, super cheap. Finally, you want to just go really cheap and save some money? Get Parker Washington of the Jacksonville Jaguars at 3,800 a shot at Tampa Bay. Zay Jones, the outside receiver, it looks like he's not going to play. He's week to week. Well, we already know that we lost Christian Kirk for the regular season for sure. And this team is chipping away. We may or may not see Trevor Lawrence, but the point is Tampa Bay cannot defend the middle of the field in the passing game. We saw it last week in Tampa, but Tampa, no matter who they play, we see everything. They get undressed in the middle of the field. And Parker Washington, that's where he lives. He's a slot guy. Real nice play at 3,800. Tight ends. Trey McBride, 5,700 against the Bears. I do think the Bears do really well here. He is the only viable receiver they can count on now. Marquise Brown with a heel, he's out. McBride in the middle of the field. The Bears are playing great defense, but the Bears are going to probably have a good lead here. And when Murray has to throw, we've seen it. Even against San Francisco, Trey McBride cashed literally every week. Heavy targets, heavy production, ride Trey McBride. Evan Ingram's 5,400 against Tampa. Same reason with Parker Washington. If the middle of the field is where you attack them, Evan Ingram can also be deployed out wide where Tampa's had some struggles as well. But they're going to need to lean on him, again, with no Zay Jones and no Christian Kirk. Last week, Evan Ingram had an awful matchup. Back to fine here. David Njoku, 5,300 at Houston. Look, with Joe Flacco, other than that first game Flacco started, Njoku's targets are through the roof. Houston, I don't see an answer. I know Jimmy Ward, good safety. Njoku is catching screens. They're utilizing him on some of the intermediate routes. They're using him in a way where I don't think they can defend him. Finally, Jake Ferguson against Miami. Miami gives you the middle of the field. They may put Jalen Ramsey more than not. Now, I know they may not shadow him full time, but he may be on CD Lamb a lot. Dak's going to have to go somewhere with the ball, and Miami gives you the middle, so Ferguson. Defense, special teams, the Bears, 2,800 against Arizona. Again, they're playing lights out. They have a good chance for takeaways and maybe even another one of those pick sixes. Panthers, 2,400 are your cheap play against Green Bay, but I recommend the Bears if you can spend up to 28. All right, we have one last pick here, and then I'll check a couple start-sit questions. John, Broncos and the Patriots. We have tomorrow evening, Christmas Eve night, we have a game, standalone. Broncos at home, -7.5 against the Patriots. Bill Belichick won't be back last year. Broncos coming off a sound loss against Detroit. How do you break this one down?
Well, this isn't one that you really want to watch on Christmas Eve. I'm a little disappointed with the flex scheduling by the NFL, to be honest with you, even though I've been a longtime Patriot fan and supporter. This year has been really bad. In fact, it's so bad that they are now the worst scoring team in the NFL, overtaking the New York Giants, if you will, scoring 13.3 points per game, which is, I mean, that's anemic, for lack of a better word that I can't say on this show. But yards per game, they're 28th, 285 yards per game. Points per play, dead last at .218. We talked about Miami being number one at scoring 0.5 points per play. Well, put it in perspective. Takes more than twice as many plays for the New England team to score the same amount of points of the Dolphins. That's how bad it is. Third down conversions, 29th. Fourth down conversions, 29th. Red zone scoring, they're pretty good, but they don't get in the red zone very often. But 13th, and they're just a team that's wrapping up the season. It's a shame for Belichick, being the legend that he is. Whether you like him or not, the guy has 9 rings, I think, because he had 2 other rings before he went to New England, or 3 other, I think, before he went to win the 6 at New England. But it looks like that era has come to an abrupt end this season. They have so many problems right now with personnel that they would need 3 drafts, I think, to really get back to being a competitive playoff type of team. Denver, on the other hand, what a marvelous job Sean Payton has done, whether you like him or not. I'm not the biggest fan of some of the stuff over the years, but you got to tip your hat to him, because they were 0-3 to start the season, coming off a game losing by, 53 points, allowing 70 points to the Dolphins. And suddenly they have become one of the hottest teams in the NFL over the last 10 games. And they cannot be ruled out despite the record. They are right in the hunt to make the playoffs. And Sean Payton has the coaching experience to get them there. So this is one of those games, I think, you spend time with family and maybe choose to drink some eggnog or something. It's not really a game that I'm going to have on my radar to watch.
Yeah.
But I think Denver wins this game comfortably. We have seen the Patriots offense get a little bit better. They scored first in the last 2 games. If that happens and you happen to be watching it, that's a great opportunity to take Denver. Betting system on the horizon here for this game is to bet on home favorites from week 12 on out to the end of the regular season. The home team is coming off a 3-game road trip, which the Broncos are, and the total is less than 40 points. 28-4 straight up are the Broncos in this situation. 21-10, 68% against the spread. And the over, 24-8 to the over, 75%. My best bet on this one is to take the over. And if you like teasers, which I don't, you have an opportunity here to tease the Broncos down and tease the over up. Down by 6 points. Sorry.
Right.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great call. I love that. John, I want you to tell everybody where they can find you and your work, and remind them if they want the free picks, how to get those. And then I'll let you say a lot of some fantasy football start-sit questions I won't bore you with.
Okay. First and foremost, I just published an NFL article on Rotowire.com that has a lot of golden nuggets in it, at least in my opinion. It has a lot of situational trends and angles for a lot of different games that we didn't talk about on this show. And also a best bet at the end of that article that you can, play it. Or if you don't like it, then just, kind of watch and see how it goes. You can find me at Twitter at John Ryan Sports 1, at predictiveplaybook.com, which is my own personal corporate website where I provide even more analytical information and education to help hopefully make you a better bettor. And let's just keep this 81% 5-week win streak going, Jim. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to give it my all.
Well, John, you are a winner. You're a consistent winner. You do the work, and that's what makes you, and your own intelligence, that's what makes you the legend in this business you are. John, Merry Christmas to you. Enjoy the holiday, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Good luck.
Merry Christmas, Jim. I hope your day's great, and Merry Christmas to everybody who's out there watching and listening and supporting us. It means a lot.
Thank you. All right, take some start-sit questions here. So we have one from Quincy. Sit 1, Mixon, Pacheco, or Zeke. So Mixon struggled against the Steelers last time, and they didn't throw him the ball enough. He actually could do a little work as a receiver there. I just don't know that the Cincinnati's going to use him enough, and Chase Brown's cutting into his work. So I'm a little bit nervous about that. Pacheco coming back. Look, he's a full go right now. That running attack is doing very well, and the Raiders they're good against the run, but again, you have to defend the pass against Kansas. So I like Pacheco in the spot. And look, Zeke came off a stinker last week, and I get it that the defense loaded up to stop him, and they were successful. I don't know that Denver has that in them. Denver is a very weak run defense. They can't defend the receiving backs either. So look, if it's me, I'm going to probably sit Mixon in this one. If you have a gut call on that, definitely trust it because this is very close between the three. But Zeke is getting that volume. And then Kincaid or Tucker Kraft, sit 1. I assume that's Tucker Kraft is 1, and you sit one of those 2. Kincaid's been trending down. The last 3 weeks, his yardage has gone down. Last week, he had a goose egg. Tucker Kraft Luke Musgrave is still out. They give him the practice window, but they didn't activate him. So he is getting significant work. And Carolina, it's a good enough matchup against the tight end. I'm going to give Tucker Kraft the edge here. Just a downward trend for Kincaid not working. If they get a lead, I think they're going to keep running the ball. We saw that last week. Allen threw the ball 15 times. That was against Dallas. So if that's the way they're going to go there, it may be the same thing here. So I would sit Kincaid for that reason. Jackson, what do you got? Amari or Jaden Reed? So Jaden Reed is really iffy, apparently, with a toe injury. The toe's not 100%. That's enough to tell me go Amari Cooper. Cooper's playing Houston. Houston against number one receivers, not been good. Joe Flacco throwing the ball over 40 times a game. They don't trust the running game right now. The offensive line is struggling, but Flacco can get it out quickly. Trust his receivers, both Cooper and Njoku. The Reed injury is enough to tip me down, but I would go Cooper anyway. Cooper is in a strong spot, and he's an elite player. Browns D or Eagles D? Look, I know the Browns are on the road, and that usually isn't quite as good, but Houston be without C.J. Stroud. Don't know if Nico Collins is playing or not, but regardless, when you're down to a backup quarterback with this pass rush and that man defense, I'm going to go with the Browns. Philly, they're playing New York, but overall, I could see New York not making mistakes. Now, the pressure's been getting to DeVito lately. So if your gut says Philly's going to come out with a 7-sack effort, go ahead and start them. I just in good conscience is going to find a hard time sitting Cleveland because we could see the pick six in this one. But again, defenses are always a crapshoot. So there's that. Quincy, need one flex full PPR receivers, half PPR running backs. All right. Zeke, Flowers, Noah Brown, and Palmer. Look, so Brown had 2 goose eggs, and last week he had a good game, and I couldn't recommend starting him last week off 2 goose eggs. Look, this week he's going to see man coverage. He's going to see one of those 3 very good cornerbacks. Quarterback's not going to have a lot of time to throw. If your gut says Brown, I get it. I can't play him. This matchup, I don't know. Those 2 goose eggs are more likely than the big game. Josh Palmer needed the touchdown he was uncovered on to score. Buffalo, right now he's their number 1. And Buffalo has been excellent as number 1 receivers. Keenan Allen's out. So I don't like him. So that leaves us with Zeke and Zay Flowers. Well, we'll go Zeke and Zay Flowers. Chad, if I'm a true believer who's going to do a stack for Mullins, would you stack him with 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the weapons? So again, Detroit's a bear to run against. And it looks like Madison might play a limited role in this game. That means they might go back to that split role where, maybe Chandler in a lead now gets 2/3. But again, it's a really bad matchup. So I would pick 2 receivers. I don't think I'd go 3. I don't think I'd go the full trio. And, Addison had the 2 touchdowns last week. There's that. The safest, obviously, would be Jefferson and Hockenson. And Hockenson could have an upside game, too. I don't think the revenge factor plays it. He's been away from Detroit for a while. But, I'm sure there's a little extra motivation against him. I can see that. But I would play 2 of those 3 receiving options. Daniel, I really need help. Start 2 at flex. Brandon Cooks, Wan'Dale Robinson, Chase Brown, or Rondale Moore. So, look, Rondale Moore, he had 4 weeks ago, he had the 48-yard touchdown on the first drive of the game and then didn't do anything the rest of the way. His targets and touches are so low. It's like 2 to 3 per game. We can't bet on him. And the Bears are playing great defense, so we're going to take him out. Wan'Dale Robinson's a good matchup. I will say that. You never know who's going to step up in the New York passing game. That's the problem. But Philly's scuffling on defense. And they move around Robinson. So he should get some damage in the middle of the field. Now, I do like Chase Brown over Brandon Cooks. Here's why. The Dolphins, with the Vic Fangio defense, they limit explosives very, very, very well. They don't give up much. And Brandon Cooks is obviously a very good player, but he's not elite anymore. And I don't think a non-elite player is one I want to bet on at Miami against that Fangio defense. So I'm going to go with Chase Brown, who's probably going to get you about 10 touches here. And the advantage for him in this game, and I mentioned earlier, Joe Mixon is a bad matchup with Pittsburgh, so that means Chase Brown is too. But Chase Brown's been seeing some receiving work, and it's a change of pace guy. I talk about it all the time. You play at the Mixon speed, and then you bring in Chase Brown, and you have a tactical advantage. So I'm gonna go Wan'Dale and Chase Brown. Alex, I think you had a comment for John Ryan. You'll have to message him off. It was about one of the trends he had going. Sorry about that. Brian Upton, welcome, Brian. And Brian always reminds everybody, hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you for always reminding people. I know you didn't hear, but you always remind me to remind people that because I forget to do that. Defensive special teams, Dallas or Chicago. I mean, look, Chicago's in a good spot. They've been playing great. Dallas is at Miami. But we've seen games where good defenses have dismantled the Dolphins since last year. Sit Dallas at your own peril. Defenses are always, always, always unpredictable. You never know what you're getting. The Bears have the better matchup. Dallas is Dallas. If the things work for Dallas, they could have a mammoth game. They could. But if Mike McDaniel gets things rolling for Miami, then they might not do much. It's always fickle with defenses. In this case, I'd say you have an elite defense. You're in the fantasy playoffs. Play the elite defense and hope their floor is better. But Chicago's a good play. Chicago is a good play. But ultimately, if the Bears have a letdown game because Arizona is somebody they're not excited about playing because it's like, oh, it's just Arizona, that could happen. Anthony, Mixon or Jones? I assume you mean Aaron Jones. Close. A.J. Dillon's supposed to play. Workloads are kind of similar. I do give Aaron Jones a 52-48 edge over Mixon because Pittsburgh typically does reasonably well against him, and I don't think since he throws the ball to Mixon enough in this matchup. It's a gut call for sure, but I give Jones a very slight edge. Josh, morning to you as well. You have Flacco and Mullins, not sure which one to start. The probability for a higher scoring game goes to Mullins. That's the probability. Could shoot out. Cleveland-Houston could be a low-scoring game. If Cleveland doesn't have to put their pedal to the metal, they may not. So there's that. So I would give Mullins for those weapons and the likely shootout the slight edge. But again, it's close enough. Flacco's been on fire. Your opponent has, usually I don't worry about. Now I usually don't worry about. That's my thing is I don't even look at my opponent's lineups because like I got to get points. Points are win games, and I'm like, I don't worry about them. I worry about maximizing my lineup for my points, and so that's how I look at it. That's just my philosophy, but certainly other people look at it differently, and I respect that. Justin, Swift or Singletary PPR? So, all right, Swift. Not last week, but the two prior games against games scripted out, right? Because when they trail, Kenny Gain was the receiving back. They're at home against the Giants. They should play with the lead. Swift should flirt with 18 touches here. Singletary gets similar volume, but Cleveland has really been better against the run. I'm giving Swift the edge. Chiefs or Browns defense? From an NFL standpoint, the Chiefs defense has been good. They're not getting a lot of sacks. I'm going to go with the Browns here. I'm going to take the elite players against a backup quarterback. And both teams. Aiden O'Connell's a backup for the Raiders. I get that. But I think in this specific scenario, Cleveland, even though they're on the road, I'm going to give Cleveland the edge. Tom, Javonte or Gabe Davis? Oh, man. That's a rough one, right? New England's lights out against the run, and we saw what Detroit did to Javonte last week. Gabe Davis has 3 goose eggs in the last 4 games with a 20 thrown in there. We saw last week Josh Allen threw 15 times when they had a lead. That could continue. Javonte has a higher floor. So because of the higher floor, I'm going with Javonte. Gabe Davis, 3 zeros out of 4. Can't take a 0. Davis theoretically has a higher ceiling. That I'll grant you. Anthony, Kmet or Kraft? Kmet just popped up on the injury report. I don't know what that means, but they put him on Friday. Usually that's not good. He may be fine. Worries me. Kmet, if that injury didn't pop up, it's Kmet all day long. Kraft does have a good enough matchup. What I would tell you is just make sure the injury report tomorrow goes off. These are both on Saturday or Sunday games. If Kmet's active, I still would play Kmet. I think the Bears have a big game through the air here. Alex, you picked up Wicks in case Devontae Smith. Yeah. Of course, Wicks is on the injury report too, but it looks like he's going to play. So there's that. Now, your problem with Wicks is, though, Wicks plays Sunday, Devontae Smith plays Monday. So if Smith's a game-time decision, you're going to want a player, Wan'Dale Robinson. Might want to pick him up. I don't know if he's available. Baltimore, San Francisco's at night. Not sure anybody's available from those games. Devontae Smith doesn't play. Not quite sure where to go with that, but yeah. But remember, just Smith and Wicks different days. Tom, Zach Charbonnet or McLaurin? I know McLaurin is a bad matchup. I know he does, but we've seen Terry McLaurin do well in bad matchups before. Charbonnet, I'm concerned. We had 4 carries last week. Not enough volume. Tennessee, I know they're compromised against running. Said Jeffrey Simmons out, no T.R. Tart anymore. He's gone from the team, apparently. I'm going to give McLaurin the edge because I think McLaurin has a higher ceiling. But it's a gut call on that one. I just don't see Charbonnet hasn't gotten enough work. And I know McLaurin had a goose egg 2 games ago. And again, I know the matchup's bad. But again, Terry McLaurin's a superstar. If they get him the ball, he'll do something. Chad, how much concern did you have that the second time facing factor turns an Aiden O'Connell offense into a disaster? Well, the second half of that game was a disaster. The Chiefs made their adjustments in the second quarter of that game. And it was a disaster at that point. So there's that, right? So I don't think there's much they have to do. They figured it out. They figured that game out by halftime. And then and the thing was, the Raiders were able to be balanced early because they were playing with the lead. And so he was fine, but then they fell behind, and then Spags got to him. So, yeah, no, I would be very concerned about Aiden O'Connell here. I still think they get the ball to Devontae Adams, though. So those who are starting Devontae Adams, don't worry. Brian Upton, I appreciate you, man. Admiral, start 1 standard with new news. Roshan Johnson. So if Foreman's out, Charbonnet, Zeke Elliott, or Ty Chandler. How many do you need here? 1. I'm still going with Zeke. The matchup is pristine. Denver's horrible against the run. They're horrible against receiving backs. I'm going with him in that one. Roshan's a receiving back. I think that if Foreman's out, I think Khalil Herbert gets 12 carries. And I don't think, if you look at the games when Roshan's played a lot, it's against teams with good pass rushes. Arizona don't have that. So that makes me concerned there. I'd give Zeke the edge. I know last week was bad. Goff or Allen were there, right? It's in a dome, but it's road Goff. There's that. Brian Flores going to blitz the hell out of him. Goff does not typically do well against the blitz. Josh Allen attempted 15 passes last week, but he still got it done for fantasy, right? I mean, to a degree. I can't sit Josh Allen. Again, I don't know how much they're going to use him, but I worry about Goff. Alex, thanks. Anthony, thanks. Tom, thanks as well. Armando, Jerome Ford, or Najee Harris. So Harris has the knee thing. I don't think he's 100%. Still limited in practice. It's a great matchup. If Cleveland has a leader, which they may, Ford could see a little more work. He does get some targets. Ford gets like 4 or 5 targets in most games. Because Harris is less than 100% right now, and I'm very concerned what the reality of his injury is. I'm going to give Ford the slight call. Trust your gut on that one. If your gut says Harris, in a vacuum, if Harris was fine, Harris is an easy play here. But I don't know the level of his injury. All right, last one, Armando. I don't do kickers. Sorry. Kickers require luck. I'm the least lucky person you'll ever meet in your life. So flip a coin. Look at the over and under for the team total. But, yeah, kickers are all luck, and I have no luck. I could give you skill, but I can't give you luck. All right, you got one more flex. Addison, Lockett, or Monty? Thank you for the nice words, Armando. So, look, Addison, it's going to be tough to sit him. Detroit can't stop anybody in the air. They crush you on the ground. So, you're forced to pass. Lockett's trending down lately. He got 8 targets last week. I think he got 3 of them. And it wasn't for much yards. And I know Geno's back this week. It's just trending down for him lately. And it's a good matchup. But Lockett's very volatile. Monty has the best floor of them all. And I'm not worried about the matchup. Minnesota's a good run defense. But that offensive line, great run blocking. Monty for his floor, I'm giving you the edge. If you want to go the boom bust route, it'd be Addison. Addison could blow up. Because you saw a 2 touchdown game. Big yardage. That's in the range of outcomes. If you want great floor with moderate ceiling, then you're okay with Monty. But if you got to swing for defense, you got to go Addison. Admiral, you're welcome. All right, happy holidays. Everybody starts sit stream Sunday, 11 Eastern, Sirius XM, 1 to 3 Eastern today, channel 87. Mario Puig and myself. Sunday, at 9 a.m. with Alan Soslowski. Happy holidays, everybody. Enjoy the games.